All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sunday Brunch. You may notice that I am not Spencer Love. I am Mighty Joe, and I am not used to hosting the Sunday Brunch, so I will do the best I can without Spencer.
Hello.
Here. And yes, we welcome Sandy all the way from Germany. That's right, folks. We have people listening to us and watching us all around the world. Pretty cool when you think about it. All right, let's go around and introduce ourselves and kind of catch up here because it's actually been a while since I've talked to Parrish. What have you been up to, dude?
I've been lifting the weights a little bit as Pluggo just left, I guess.
He's probably having some internet issues on his end. He'll be back.
American internet, such a bitch. I blame you, Horizon. Damn you. But other than that, no, I mean, I've been just getting ready for tonight's show in St. Albert here where I live for the CWE.
Nice.
Yeah, how about you?
Oh, no, it's nice to hear those three letters again. It's been a while since I've seen Danny and the gang. Hopefully they'll make their way down to Southern Ontario, maybe not this tour, but the next one, because I love me some CWE. It'd be cool to see Danny again. Pluggo. It's been a hot minute since I've seen you, my friend. What have you been up to since we did the Between Two Beards War Report mega special?
Mega special. Mega powers, baby. Not much, man. I'm on vacation, so I'm making my Sunday brunch debut. I've never been able to be a part of one of these due to work, and now that I'm on vacation, I thought, what the heck? Let's bust this cherry, so to speak.
Nice. We'll have to see maybe if we can cure your internet problems. You're coming in, Mr. El Roboto, a little bit, but we will figure it out. So, yeah, I know the other day when we had
out.
Pluggo, I just threw Horizon under the bus, but who's your carrier for internet?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't even know if Verizon
I think it's 18.
Oh, okay.
Well,
maybe I'll hop back in. I got this.
As much as we love making fun of internet service providers, we are not here to do that. We're here to talk some professional wrestling, but we'll vamp a little bit until Pluggo gets back. Yeah, man, like I was saying, it's cool to see and hear about live independent pro wrestling running back again, because it has been a hot minute. It's been a while. So, like, just to kind of pick your brain, what's it feel like to kind of get back at kind of doing what you would love to do?
To be honest, like I'm the kind of guy where I have to actually be doing it to if I want to give you that honest answer, like it's still not real yet. And plus there's always that phrase in wrestling where it's not happening until it happens. So you kind of have to live through that. Until I'm actually inside a ring, I see the people around me either telling me to go F myself or you're awesome. Either one. I don't even know which one yet. Hopefully it's the latter. I mean, it's 5 minutes from my house. So if I'm hated here, then I got to move. But I don't know. But like, I'm excited.
Be the villain, man. Embrace it and be the villain.
Something I don't do a lot of shows is I don't get really nervous, but I'm antsy. So we'll see. We'll see. I know. I'm just happy that, we got our lives back together, or we're getting our lives back.
Yeah, absolutely. EPW show in the chat as well. And Ryan, welcome back, sir. Pluggo, it looks like you're back and you're looking all smooth and all awesome and stuff there. What's going on, man?
Is this better? Do I sound like
much better? Much better.
Much better.
Yes, this is the Pluggo I know and love.
So I think we've solved the internet problem. Just ditch the iPad and do it on the iPhone.
There you go.
There you go. Hear that, Apple?
Oh, but I'd hate to drag down the brunch with my internet.
That's all right.
You're rolling the device that actually had the byte in it, and so it's like, oh, we didn't get the whole thing.
Yeah. Like I said, I'd love to spend an hour, making fun of internet service providers, but we're here to talk about some professional wrestling. And let's start off with, I guess, one of the biggest kind of things that has happened this past week. We saw a very interesting, a very dark, a very black debut over in AEW. I'll start with you, Parrish. What did you think about Mr. Malachi Black, formerly known as Aleister Black, formerly known as Tommy End, showing up on AEW?
Yeah, I love how Jim Ross had no idea what to call him. That I think made my day. I think nothing's better now than listening to Jim Ross have no clue what's going on. That might be my favorite part of AEW now, is just
more of
hearing like, I don't want to say senile, but just like out of the out of the room, Jim Ross. Like, that is fantastic. I don't know. It is what it is. But I mean, I'm happy for Malachi Black. I think it's awesome. I think it's hilarious that as we saw on Fightful with Sean Ross Sapp interviewing with Buddy Murphy, that they confused his 90 days with Aleister Black's. So he was able to to appear 30 days after his release instead of the 90 days. So that was fantastic. I honestly think, that should just be a thing. I mean, isn't this not better for wrestling? Like, when you can get those old school times where your contract runs out and then the guy just can show up and all of a sudden the internet's buzzing positively. Keyword is positively, because internet is a cesspool. But it's just good for wrestling. It's just good. And it was good for him. And I'm happy both him and his wife are employed and they're doing what they love again. And that's what matters.
What a crazy oversight by WWE, though, to forget about that, essentially. And because it's weird, because they could have gotten close to 90 days and maybe have drawn them back in. That's two sets of couples now we have that are split between AEW and WWE. Right, we got Andrade and Charlotte, and now we've got Zelina Vega and Aleister Black. Right, so it's interesting. It's interesting that for me, like, I think the debut was really, really cool. My only, because in traditional Mighty Joe fashion, I have to find something to criticize a little bit, otherwise I wouldn't be doing my character justice here. But my only issue with the debut, and it's more like a commentary thing, is Excalibur. Like, seemingly, like, he still seems to want to put himself over as a wrestler. So like, oh, there's him. I used to wrestle him back in the day. It's like, dude, on commentary, that's like a really weird and like a thing to kind of bring up. It's about that guy making his debut, not be like, oh, that's somebody that I used to wrestle. And like, it felt really kind of self-indulgent when it didn't need to be. It's about that guy's debut. What do you think, Pluggo, on this debut?
Oh, I thought it was great. And what a perfect storm of timing. They're back on the road and his 90 days is up in 35 days. It's perfect.
Right. Yeah.
And then, to Parrish's point about the Jim Ross thing, I thought in this particular instance, it kind of worked that he flubbed because even the crowd was chanting Tommy, Tommy, right? So nobody knew what they were going to call him until Excalibur was like, wait, no, that's Malachi Black. That's not Tommy.
Yeah.
It's something different. And it was just, I thought it was a great debut, go right after Cody, which I think is perfect because Cody needs to be doing something a little bit bigger than fighting the Nightmare Factory right now. I think he's above that by far. So I'm excited to see what they do with the old Tommy Malachi Black, whatever you want to call him.
Malachi and Tommy Black.
One thing that actually made me just happy to see again is that the fans thought they were one up on the scenario, and really the performer was one up on the fans, and it was just nice to see the performer being one up again. Too many times I watch wrestling, and it's like almost like the fans know either what's going on or what's next, more so than sometimes the performer. So it's just nice to see the performers be one step ahead again. Yeah. And it just came off like that. And it just, I don't know, like that, to me, that just felt like an old school debut though.
And he kept the eye injury too, which played.
Yeah, that was cool.
Continuity,
yes. Now, one thing that I want to ask you guys, like in AEW isn't the only place where this kind of happens, but something that's been bugging me for a long time. I want to pick both of your guys' brains on this. The lights out gimmick. Why is this never explained as to why this is happening? Because the only place that I've seen in professional wrestling where they actually explain it is over in New Japan. They'll be like, so-and-so's manager turned the lights off. And then like they actually explain and tell you the reason why the lights off happened. Over in North America here, it's seemingly never explained as to why the lights always seem to go out before debuts happen. Like, is there like a spike in electricity? Like, did we forget to pay the bill? Like, what happened? It's never explained. Parrish, I'm going to start with you on that one. What's your take on the lights out before kind of a surprise or like a new entrant or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's a little dramatic, especially if it's done all the time. It becomes a little redundant, in my opinion. But I mean, depending on the character, depending on the performer, it makes sense. Like with Chris Jericho, it made a lot of sense. Just with that countdown, you're just building the anticipation, building the drama. With Malachi Black, I mean, it's in his name, Black, and if you turn the lights off, everything goes black. But if it's and like for the darker, mysterious characters, I mean, it's just an easy out and an easy explanation. But if you're doing it to, I don't know, like Orange Cassidy, then it's just stupid. I mean, nobody drinks orange juice in the dark, and if you do, then you're probably going to spill, and then you're going to get upset because it's not the liquid you want to spill.
Vanessa in our chat saying there was a bad storm going through the area, so maybe people assumed it was that. I think it's a bit of a stretch, honestly, but
Malachi Black did say that was part of the whole idea, was that he wanted to have a couple lights off, just think that it was a technical difficulty. So then it went off. People just assumed that it was, it's just a technical difficulty. And then boom, the shock factor that
if that's the case, respect your fans enough to tell them that's the reason why it happened.
I mean, I didn't watch I wasn't watching live. I was watching the cup final. So I can't.
I get it. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, just I think, and especially in WWE, I think sometimes it's a bit of an insult to the fans when this just kind of happens. And it's like, at least respect us enough to tell us why something like that happens. It doesn't have to be all the time, but just occasionally be like, hey, you know what? Lightning, you're saying if it's a paranormal type character, lightning hit the transmitter. So that's why we went up for a second and boom, and then when they show it up. Right. So, but sometimes just explain to us why this is happening. Sorry, I cut you off.
You're fine. I was saying that was a retribution move, throwing of cocktails at Transformers. I watched it live, and at first I thought it was like just first day back on the road, maybe a technical thing. Because Cody kind of like, what's going on? Like he didn't know what was going on. And then I think they did it really well with the second one. I do agree. I think AEW overplays the lights out gimmick.
Yeah,
quite a bit. If I'm gonna be nailed on anything, it's that, because that's their go-to for every big reveal, big debut, and they got to come up with something else and something fresh for that. Because as soon as the lights are going out, something's happening. So the only difference was this week is it went out twice and nothing happened the first time. So
with that approach, I've always liked like that. Like I said, the lights out thing can kind of work. Like whether if it's like a return of like something like the Undertaker or like like a Aleister Black or like a Bray Wyatt or something, I can understand. But I was always more of a fan of like the Midnight Rider type of thing when they come in like fully dressed and they got like the motorcycle helmet on. They do something and then stay in the middle of the ring and then pull it off, right?
Like DDP when he was a stalker.
Bingo, right?
Yeah.
See that, and then you get that holy shit pop moment, right? So it can
Awesome
be really,
character, wrong guy doing it though.
yeah, you could make a. You know what? I really dug that one. That was probably executed rather well.
One thing I wanted to ask though, was this like an instance where maybe not enough people knew about Malachi Black being in there to where little things like this couldn't have been a little bit more kind of just put down like the wavelength? I don't like because only like a handful of guys knew about it. From what I understood,
Very low key.
Yeah, like I think Zelina Vega knew, Alistair knew, his dad knew, and like 3 people from AEW knew. Jim Ross said he didn't even know. So if that so little amount of people knew about it, then maybe little things like an explanation of why the lights are going off can't be fully explained at its best because nobody else really knows why if they don't know the end game. I don't know if that would be a reason, but I think maybe it could be a factor.
Throwback in the chat saying Pluggo with the Sea Dogs cap.
It's a Goodwill find, baby. Found this.
So just out of curiosity, because you guys are both Boston Bruins fans, do you guys remember this old school Bill Ranford jersey?
Oh, who's a Boston?
When was I a Boston Bruins fan?
No, not you. Throwback and are you Pluggo a Boston guy?
Bruins fan? Don't speak for me, Parrish. I'm not a Boston Bruins fan.
If I had to put a team on it for hockey, if I had to, I grew up a
I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, for the record.
Oh,
Canadiens.
Crosby. No. All right.
That's all I have to say on that one.
I just thought it was funny that a guy wearing a Bullet Club shirt is doing the DX suck at them.
Right?
Like just out of all things, that is why wrestling is the best.
Right. All right. So I want to, since we had mentioned the fans, I want to transition over to something here. Not the smoothest transition ever, but so what?
Yeah,
yeah. That was the transition, the crotch chop. SmackDown this coming Friday is going to be the first one back with fans. Now, for those of you who tune into the most recent episode, Turnbuckle Talk, know that we had brought this up, and there's a couple ways I think that this could play out. I would like to see like the first show back with fans to be John Cena's music dropping, him coming out, win those fans back over with the live fans in attendance. My fear, though, is that we open up with the McMahon music, and the entire McMahon family comes out to the middle of the ring and pats themselves on the back and, oh, we're the first ones back with fans. We're doing this wonderful thing for the fans. I'm worried that they do that instead, and it would just be a really annoying, awkward way to open things back up with fans.
This show should just...
What do you think, Pluggo?
It should just be everything they do on this Friday should be for the WWE fan, right? Like
right.
you're
that's the key for the fans, not for the McMahon family.
If you can get Cena, get Cena. If you can, just get some big pops. Get people
Cena.
Excited.
If you get Cena, you get Cena. You just get him. You just get him.
Dude, he's doing Experion commercials and hefty bags. And
he's got time. Just get him there.
But yeah, I think I'm excited. I think the Thunderdome did what it needed to do based on how we weren't digging the PC era for a while, and then they came up with something, and it was exciting for a few months, and then it's kind of ran its course, and it's time to get fans and get them engaged and get them excited, keep them at a 10 all night long, because we saw that with AEW. When they had everybody going all night, that crowd was electric the whole time. There was very little quiet time with the fans. So I think the WWE needs to step their game up and make that happen, since they haven't had a single soul outside of that WrestleMania, which even that was kind of it wasn't full capacity. So it didn't quite hit as well. Here's a chance to go full capacity at the arena they're going to be at and just go for it. Heading into Money in the Bank.
And what better way to get a really loud reaction on both sides of things than John freaking Cena, man. You're talking literally the most polarizing guy of the modern wrestling generation. You're either going to get a lot of cheers or a lot of boos or a 50-50 mix. I think it's the perfect way to come back and really, really hit a home run with the fans. I mean, people will literally lose their minds.
I'm
What do you think?
we're talking about this, and part of me kind of wants Seth Rollins to be that first guy out. Hear me out, because how great would it be if he took the microphone and said he was the exact reason why the fans are back, because he knows the people need him back in their lives. And then this can set up the whole Money in the Bank match, and then they can actually go home properly, start doing some of that, or go to that, because isn't there not a – I mean, there's also that 6-man tag, right, I believe, on Friday that they have announced with Edge and the Mysterios against Roman and Usos. Could be a segue there, but I mean, if you can get like the heat of heats or the pops of pops, you've done something right. And I think you have to hit one of those nails. But less is more on this one. Don't go over doing it. Just keep the energy going.
It's the first one back with fans. We see Seth Rollins literally every week. The absence makes the heart grow fonder. And then, like I said, who better to do that with than John Cena? Like I said, either way, you're going to get like a crazy reaction in either direction if you go right.
I just think now that I think John Cena is going to get a good reaction regardless. Personally, sure. I'd like to see it post Money in the Bank, just because then you can actually go to why he's there.
With
Bailey, and you're already back.
With Bailey gone for 9 months, which I hope they keep her on TV in some capacity. I think she's fantastic. This would be a great opportunity to just even have Becky Lynch come out and address the fans, right? Like, here's an opportunity for a pop. You don't have to have her come out and wrestle if she's not quite ready, but just having her come out.
What if she's a replacement for Money in the Bank?
Hey, I mean, I'm all for that, but I'm not forcing her to wrestle
now.
Ready, but she can come out and address the fans. She's been backstage the last few weeks or so.
Right.
You know, get that.
Now, what if you do the? What if you do the?
You want people to understand the live events are back, and you basically are using this show to say, "Hey, come out to our shows, pay money to come see us." They need to go a little bit bigger than normal. I have to admit.
Yeah. I mean, what if you do the Brian Pillman gimmick with Bailey at home? Right, and then you have whoever she's going to feud with come and like mess with her at home, right? If you want to get back to more of that,
and she pulls out a gat. That'd be awesome.
Right? Right? That'd be crazy, but yeah, I think that I think you need whether it be John Cena or some other big legend that you're going to get a pop from. I think that's who you have to open that first SmackDown back with fans. You have to.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of like somebody's trying to come to Bailey's house looking for a hug, and she just has a shotgun in their house and be like, "Get off my lawn!" I can't help but pop for that.
Yeah. I don't know if Fox would be okay with that. That'd be a problem there.
I mean, they give us the Patriots. I mean, come on.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of nonsense, kind of going on. This has happened again here, guys. This is something that I hate when this happens, and it's kind of something that still pisses me off when it comes to professional wrestling. And we're talking about fans jumping over the barrier and either getting into the ring or getting involved in a match. I hate that this still happens here. And since we have somebody who does compete in the ring, I want to go to you first, Parrish. What do you think about? What's your take on these asshats jumping in the ring? Because for me, like knowing, like I got to talk to a fair amount of workers and wrestlers that have worked in professional wrestling. I mean, dude, like once you cross that line and you get into your world, it's no punches pulled, right?
I mean, there's a reason why you're a fan paying money to go to a show and not a performer on the other side. If you wanted to be a performer, go to a wrestling school, learn the craft, get booked, put in the work, do the grind, get in the profession, and be respectful. But if you're going to be the guy that goes there, and who knows, like he may have been drunk, he may have just been stupid, he may have been like over the ease excited. And we've seen this in other sports where they're throwing water bottles at basketball players and just being too aggressive and thinking they are more than what they are. And I've said this before, sometimes I don't know who has the bigger ego today in pro wrestling, whether it's wrestlers, promoters, fans, because fans have a high horse nowadays. And just because you know that you're important at the shows, which you are, does not give you the right to take them by will and interfere with it. Know your it's going back to the rucks. Know your role and just be respectful. Don't wreck it for other people because you have no idea what child is sitting in the front row that maybe you accidentally hit over, or maybe, you know, the performer is going to punch you in the face and it's a negative graphic experience for that child or somebody's first time and things like that. Like, yeah, I mean, what Jericho did in hitting him, that's old school. I have no problem with that. I understand the legalities of it. But with that being said, don't be that asshat that wrecks it for other people. And also remember, it's a full family experience. Don't wreck it for the children because they're going to pay the money for you to sit at a home in like 20 years. Just remember that.
The thing that I want to pick your brain about, I mean, because this is something I get, when this happens and like non-wrestling people ask me about that. Well, like when the wrestlers...
I've been in one. I've been in a fan altercation.
Now, when the wrestlers physically retaliate, because people ask me, it's like, well, isn't that kind of considered assault? I'm like, well, I guess technically you can make that argument, but like I said, once you cross that barrier from being fan into their world, like you're asking for trouble. And I mean, literally every time, say 90, at least 95% of the time, the wrestlers are gonna beat the shit out of you for crossing that line, and I think justifiably so. In my personal opinion, do you is it justified, Parrish, like physically retaliating in that spot, or does it kind of depend? What do you think?
Well, I mean, you got to take an account. You don't know what this person's intention is. You have no idea why they're doing what they're doing. So it's almost like if you see somebody walking in your house, you don't know who they are. Your first line of defense is being defensive and protecting your house. A ring to a wrestler is their house. So, I mean, if you're going to interject yourself in there, their job is to protect it, especially something that has such a rich history like wrestling with kayfabe and with just that whole era of what people think about it. And like the fact that it's like a performer audience thing, that there are like stuff that you just don't tell the people. Man, it all comes down to respect. And this fan truly lost that meaning, did what he did. Jericho, wrong guy to do it to, by the way. If you're gonna do it to, at least, dude, just know what's going on. It's Jericho.
Yeah, don't pick a veteran that's been there for a long time.
Yeah, maybe pick Hornswoggle, but not a guy who's gonna just
right
tattoo your face with a freaking chair.
Like I can just picture like a fan like getting in, like say like during like a PCO match or something. I mean, that dude will literally hand your ass to you. Pluggo, what's your take on fans crossing that barrier and getting into the world of professional wrestling?
That's simple. One, I'm pretty positive that you buy the ticket to sit in the seat once you've crossed the barricade. That's technically trespassing. So, like to Parrish's point, you don't know if he's coming in there with a knife or something to do something worse. Defend yourself. You've got to defend yourself. But what you're doing, when you're doing this, you're not edgy, you're not cool. What you're doing is you're now bigger wedge between the wrestler and the fan, right? So now that kid that maybe wanted to get that autograph from his favorite wrestler, that wrestler might not get as fan interactive anymore, or there might be more security. There's going to be even more barricades between you and the fans. And I don't know if it's a real account or not, but I know that the guy that did it tweeted at Jim Cornette, avid AEW hater, and was like, "Aren't you proud of me?" Blah blah blah. And even Jim Cornette was like, "You're lucky I wasn't there. It would have been game over for you because you don't mess with the sacred wrestling ring. This is a business."
Yeah.
And so you see it in football, you see it in basketball, and unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, in those sports they do a really good job of like ignoring it, not drawing attention to it as much as possible most of the time. But they had to kind of draw attention to the guy because it's a live crowd. Nobody knows what's going on. So when they brought it up, they did what they had to do. But it's not a cool thing. Like it's not funny. It's dangerous. In this day and age, you never know what could happen. You know what I mean? And if that guy would have came in there and took out Chris Jericho, stabbed him or something, we'd be having a completely different conversation, right? So please if you're gonna pay the money, sit in the seat, be a part of the show.
It doesn't happen.
Do your.
I mean, we remember the scenario where Bret Hart just at the awards, and somebody came in and tackled him, and just how much worse that experience could have gone. I was, I don't know, fortunate, but I saw the drunk Bill Guerin fan push the ladder off with Eddie on it during the Eddie and RVD ladder match, and Eddie just punched him the F out.
Yep.
And it was, man, I got a cheer. Like a guy in an Oilers jersey got cheered while getting the teeth knocked down his throat in Edmonton. Like that was phenomenal. But I mean, wrestlers are outlaws, man. I mean, that's the difference between wrestlers and hockey players and anything like that. Maybe like you might get the same kind of intensity with like rugby players or some some more European sports like that, because well, we all know how soccer fans go, but
it just changes the whole complexity of how they're going to security now. That Hall of Fame ceremony, I'm sure they're going to change it up once they have fans back, and they're going to make it harder to be a fan,
But to your point too, and you're a father, and you can attest to this. If you were to bring your child to a show, and like maybe your intention was to, get like you said, get an autograph, get a picture, and some idiot decides to jump the barricade and then go to mess with that exact performer, I mean, it just wrecked the possibility of your child having a positive experience that's going to be there for the rest of their life.
And I even indie shows my kids around town here, and you'll see kids like ring and intermission and stuff, and I tell them, I'm like, I don't even want them going near. I don't want to give them the idea that that's okay. Like that's their this is where we need to be here.
I to this day still hate just kids being in the ring during like an intermission and stuff like that. Like it's still stuff that to me I'm just not comfortable with. Like it bugs me, but at the end of the day, it's not my decision, so I can't really piss a storm.
Moral of the story here is don't do it because it's stupid. And if you jump into the ring, especially with the wrong person, especially somebody who's been in the business for a long time, they're going to beat the shit out of you. Don't do it.
Imagine if somebody did this to Brock Lesnar. I'm not gonna lie. Even Chris Paul couldn't get a fight like that. Like it would have been, it'd be fantastic. I mean, I think everybody would just want to see like Brock Lesnar just take somebody by like one hand and then just chuck them down the field, and just to see how far it goes. Like it's,
yeah, man. Just it's disappointing that this kind of thing still happens. And like I said, now we're transitioning, going back from shows without fans to shows with fans. We got to tighten up that security. I mean,
if a beach ball can't get over, what do you think jumping in the ring's going to do?
There's a lot of people out there looking for work. Hire some security, man. Hire some security. If WWE, you cut a bunch of contracts that were, I guess, costing a lot of money apparently. To offset that, hire more security. And make it so that this kind of shit doesn't happen, because it ticks me off. Because I mean, you're messing with people's livelihood, and
you're wrecking the show. You're just trying to overtake a show, and that's not cool. Like,
and if that would have got worse than it did, and it took 10, 15 minutes to take care of, then you just cut time and took money out of some performer's mouth, food off their table because they couldn't perform, which I'm sure Tony Khan would still pay them, right? But they're not getting that time on TV and those reps like that. So you got to think about it in that sense too, is like these are their jobs and they're there to perform. And if you take away from their ability to perform, then that just affects them overall.
Yeah. Aaron Entertainment in the chat saying WWE does do a good job of getting security. Yes and no, because I mean we've had quite a few breaches with WWE with this kind of stuff happening. So
I mean they go to license,
but they could do better.
They go to license, like they'll go to like a Bell Center in Montreal, and Bell Center will have their own security teams and stuff like that. So it's not like WWE is it's their security. It is Bell. They will have additional support, but I mean.
And having said that too,
everyone is going to try to find a hole in the system too. So like this is going to unfortunately always happen. The problem is we need the information and people to learn not to do it. It's just simple as that.
So you hit on something I think that's important when you're going to these places and you're hiring and you're outsourcing people that are, say, in that case, they're used to doing security for a hockey game, right? Professional wrestling, it's a different thing. The fans are much closer to kind of what's going on. So I think that kind of going into it, these security people need to be given a little bit more of a heads up. Hey, you know what? You guys are working security at a pro wrestling match. Be on the lookout for people looking to sneak over the barrier. Because obviously in a hockey match, people aren't hopping over the glass to get on the ice, right? That shit doesn't happen, right? So a little bit more specific kind of direction and training in that area could help tighten up some of these holes and keep this kind of shit from happening.
I think we just got to give the security people more of a green light to get more physical if they have to. They have a job, and it's to protect what they're there to, like, to protect whatever event is there. Give them a green light. Like, maybe don't give them a gun necessarily. I'm not saying go to that extreme, but I'm saying, like, hey, if you're getting pushed, push back. Like, it's okay. Just, like, understand not to hurt them, but enough to say, hey, stop being an a-hole.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be like, where the collision in Korea where we got like armed militia at ringside. We don't need to go to that extreme, but just, tighten it up so that, we don't have something happen where we got to come on to a show and be like, hey, a wrestler got stabbed in the ring, or maybe even worse, right? It's just tighten that up. I mean, there's lots of people coming with this pandemic looking for work, hire system security, and it's a win-win situation. People are getting work and things are safer.
So we've talked already about Bailey.
Yeah.
Can we talk more about this? Because I think a lot of people.
Bailey thing?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of. I don't know. To me, this is a huge blow. It also created a lot of doors, I thought, for the three new faces in the women's division on SmackDown: the Tegan Nox, the Shotzi Blackhearts, and the Toni Storm. But with that being said, like, Bailey was one of those performers that's like, to really get you to that next level. I mean, she is one of, if not probably one of the best female performers all around they have. And it's kind of like this new age Natty Neidhart, if you ask me. But 9 months, I mean, just from what I understand, the workout they had to do to get back on the road, which is kind of like, it's sad, but I mean, was this workout really necessary? Because it just cost you a match at your pay-per-view and one of your top performers. So
if you're smart, though, you can work around it. Like you said, we could do something that doesn't require to be her doing things in the ring. There's ways you can work around that. Brian Pillman and lots of other people have done it, where you can work around the injury and still have an entertainment factor as well. You had mentioned with Shotzi and Tegan. I think you can set your watch to when that's going to end, because like it's something that I think appeals to like a smaller like live audience with like an NXT show. But on the main roster, that whole coming out on a toy tank thing, that does absolutely nothing for me.
Sure. Not everyone's going to be everyone's cup of tea. We know that. But I think this just gives three people an opportunity that they could take it by the horns. And then you also have the addition of Zelina Vega coming back, mixed with, say, someone like Liv Morgan and Carmella, they need to take this opportunity to become stars. If they're not understanding that, I think they could be two people that if they don't raise their games right now in the next 9 months, they could be the two that are getting cut next year, in my opinion. Just because the depth coming up is very large.
And we have to keep in mind, too, because with this injury happening now, we have to remember what company we're talking about. We're talking about the WWE. They don't like to build big stars anymore because of this type of situation, injuries, right? If they put too much into something, we see it. It's happened several times in the last decade or so, where somebody will get like a big push, and then an injury happens, and then okay, now we got to go with wrestler B, and then if that falls through, we have wrestler C. You can't have anybody stand out too much because it doesn't fit the model of how they work. You can't give anybody too big of a push, because if they get injured, you're screwed. That's just reality of it.
Yeah, Pluggo. Hey, I just want to get your opinion on this.
That's what you're taking.
All good stuff. No, Bailey is one of those, like, in my opinion, once in a generation type performers where she could play an over baby face or, the heel really well. And like I said, I hope they find something for her to do in this next 9 months, because I think that would be a disservice to her and everything that she's built, as well as the fans, to just not have her on TV for 9 months, not even mention or talk about her, because she's over. And she could sit right at that commentary booth with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee on Friday nights, and I think that would be comedy gold, right? We saw it with Austin. When Austin broke his neck, they kept him on TV and he was able to get over. Am I saying Bailey is Stone Cold Steve Austin? No, but she could probably find something to do for the next 9 months. I mean, it's an ACL injury, so I mean, hell, they got the Miz out there right now with one of those.
I need to. Sorry to cut you off. I just want to address Vanessa in the chat, but she says, "But everyone is a mid Carter then, and you won't sell tickets." That's exactly the situation they're in right now, right? You have no big stars. They're all what you would consider a mid Carter. Nobody really stands out, with the exception of maybe like a Drew McIntyre or Bobby Lashley right now.
What about Roman Reigns?
Or Roman Reigns, but like there's three. There's three, right? But if one of them gets injured, they'll just slide somebody else into that role.
Well, I mean, and
Lashley are looking a little stale right now because they keep running back the same thing with those two, and it's kind of becoming repetitive. It's kind of the thing where it's like we talked earlier about bringing in John Cena. Could you imagine if they were in the business of building stars? They wouldn't need to bring in a Cena to help get things over. They would already be over. So yeah, they definitely need to work on taking some of these performers and taking them to the next level, and understanding it only helps the business if they go off and they do movies, right? Everybody knows John Cena as WWE superstar John Cena, and now he's doing movies, and everybody goes, isn't it that wrestler guy? Mm-hmm. It's not the other way around, right? Nobody's going, is that wrestler guy a movie star? Maybe I said that wrong.
It's not your Stephen Amell scenario, is what you mean. Like, it's not the actor playing wrestler. It's the wrestler in Hollywood. One of the things that I wanted to bring this up, because I wanted to kind of throw to your guys' things. Do you guys remember when Randy Orton hurt his shoulder and he had the RNN segments where he gave updates on his shoulder? Yeah. Part of me would love to see Bailey do vignettes where they're ding-dong hellos, but it's just her updating you on her injury and what she's been doing and things like that, keeping her afloat with the audience, but wait for that big pop to when she's physically there and ready to go. And I think, I don't know, personally, I love that surprise factor. I would have loved it if the timing was Royal Rumble, but it won't be. But I have a feeling it's maybe day after WrestleMania. But with that being said, like, I think this is a time where you can try to get a little creative with Bailey and work with her to see, hey, how do you want to stay relevant in the next 9 months? How do you want to stay afloat with the audience? What can we do? Because that ding dong hello thing was just a gold mine for her, to where she didn't always have to wrestle every week. And I think that was absolutely critical for her to get more over just from a vocal aspect and just from a performance aspect, without actually having to lace up the boots.
Now, Vanessa saying in the chat, you need big superstars to draw people in. And I agree 100%. But the WWE chooses not to do that, like I said, for the reasons that I stated.
But I mean,
that with injuries, you can't push anybody too far. And I get their approach, and I don't like it, because I mean, it can be done in professional. You go to New Japan, you get somebody like Okada or Jushin Thunder Liger or whatnot. Those guys can't walk down the street for 2 seconds without thousands of people crowding around them. Over there, they have true mega superstars. WWE doesn't have that anymore. Well, that's just a fact.
That's because Brock Lesnar doesn't like people.
and Brock is one of those people, but his stints are fairly short, right? We need more of people like Brock. But like I said, the issue, and like I said, this is a WWE problem. This is not a professional wrestling problem. This is specific to this company, because the injury bug, because we do so many shows and so much stuff that you burn these talents out and they get injured. And that's why you can't fully invest as big super mega stars, because they get injured, you're screwed. That's just the way it is.
Right. And you look at it like
I don't like it. Trust me, I don't like it.
When they do Legends Nights now, right? It's Rock, it's Austin, it's Cena, it's Hogan, it's like mega names. I always thinking like 10, 15 years they do a Legends Night. Who's it going to be? Roman? Becky?
See, And the other reason why too, like those names that you'd mentioned, like Rock, like Cena, or like a Rock and Austin, especially. Yeah, those were super megastars. You know why they weren't able, why they were able to have big, long, sustained runs as super megastars? Less is more. They weren't going out there and flipping and flopping all over the place and injuring themselves constantly. Less is more, and that's how you could.
It's
That would
not
be a
just
better
that. They
approach
were
to
also
the
doing
game.
segments sometimes a week. They weren't always in a match. And I think
They were killing themselves in the ring every single moment, right? That I think it's something to not ignore. And I think especially coming back with fans we're touring now, I think that they're going to want to really do a whole lot and go over the top, especially with a lot of the in-ring stuff. I say back off on that a little bit and don't injure your entire roster just because you're back with fans, right? Because that's going to be an inclination is to want to just go all out, right? So
isn't it ironic that I said less is more like at the very first thing, and then we're just going back to that, and it's like, but it's true. Like it's really true.
I'm a huge proponent of that thought process because when I first started watching professional wrestling, that's how it was. That less is more approach. Literally, with unfortunately JPJ isn't on the show today. If you're watching, shout out to JPJ, but he has a little poster of Andre the Giant in his backdrop there. There is like the example of less is more. Right, you didn't have to do much with Andre, but holy crap, was the impact ever huge? Right.
Well, I think too.
Bit of an old school reference.
You look at the old school guys like from when we grew up, like the Steve Austins, the Rocks, now kind of John Cena at the tail end of it. They're stars in the Hollywood time. Like even Steve Austin, got a good rub in Hollywood, and still gets stuff and like acts in Hollywood. Who from today is a cinema star? Like it's hard. Like who in today's
Blister baby.
But I mean, it's one of those things where you saw it in The Rock from a mile away. You saw it. You even see it John Cena too. You just knew it was going to take a little bit more time with him because,
dude, imagine being a fly on the wall in that class in OVW when they had Batista, Cena, Randy, and Brock all in that same class. Like,
you mean imagine if you're Shelton Benjamin and you're like,
holy shit, talent came out of that frigging group. I'll tell you, man.
I mean, no, but that's what I mean. Like Shelton Benjamin, people forget he's one championship away from being an actual original Grand Slam champion in WWE.
Very underrated, extremely talented.
Yeah. And he's one of probably the best tag guys in the last couple of decades, too, other than maybe Christian and Edge, who...
If you could come out and get a pop from Brock Lesnar just by you coming out, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, like in the Rumble, when Shelton came out and Brock was like stoked for him legit, they're like, that's pretty cool, man. If you can get over with Brock Lesnar, I think you've done pretty well.
I mean, but like going back to my point, though, like I see a guy, and I'm going to use him, Ricochet. In the last few weeks, he's done more skits than necessary or than normal. And because of that, I've grown to be a little bit more invested in Ricochet as a complete performer. When he does his dives all the way over, now I'm just like, yes, this is the Ricochet that I've always wanted.
Yep.
And then you mix it with taking the spray guns, breaking it, squirting the Miz, who is completely defensive, and it's funny. But like, go back and watch your Stone Colds. He did the same things. He would bully the heels occasionally. Yeah. He would do dick things to bad guys, and the two negatives cross each other out.
Exactly.
This is what we need more of. We need more of we need Raw to be more Raw. We need a little bit more Edge on SmackDown, pun intended, who I think is also a star that you did not mention, by the way.
For sure.
I think Edge is a modern day nostalgic star too.
For sure. And because you had mentioned Ricochet, and I think that's one that we could talk about too. Because I mean, like, dude, I love Ricochet, and he's done some great stuff. But his style of working in that ring is something that's really hard to maintain for a long run because it's just the margin for error is just so razor thin with a lot of the moves that he does. Darby Allin's another one that's like cool. I love watching what you guys do, but you're playing with fire because I mean, you're over the top, constant like that. It's going to bite you in the ass eventually, and it has.
And he's already dropped that 630 from his arsenal.
Yeah. Because you can't replicate that.
Pluggo, you look like you want to say something.
Yes.
Oh, again, No, you're good, guys. You guys are going, and I'm just loving it, man. For real.
Now,
Like, you're all hitting on all these points that I would hit on anyway. So I'm just happy to be here.
the last topic that I want to touch on here is commentary foul-ups. Most recently, the one that has heard, it's been done with memes and all that kind of stuff. At the end of Dynamite, I think a few weeks ago, Mr. Jim Ross, commentator, veteran for I don't know how many friggin' years now since we were little kids, right? Said WWE Dynamite, and of course the internet wrestling community and every asshat who has access to Facebook and a keyboard is like, oh, well, Jim Ross needs to. He needs to retire and he doesn't know what he's doing anymore. It's like, get the hell off his back. He made a simple slip up. He was with the WWE for a long, long, long time. I think anybody in that scenario would eventually made a little slip up like that. It happens, right? It wasn't intentional, right? We're not talking like Mike Adamle kind of nonsense right here, although the WWE did roll with that and it actually turned it into a goofball type of character. Props to them for doing that. But people need to get off JR's back here. I mean, he's getting up there in age too. Like, people need to come a little bit slack. Is it time for him to maybe dial things back a little bit, maybe not work quite as much? I would say probably yes. But people saying that like he intentionally, there's some kind of conspiracy that AEW and WWE are in cahoots together. Like, get the what out of here, right? We don't have time for that, right? So, dude slipped up. Get over yourselves.
Amen. I slip up all the time.
Right?
I mean, I say stupid things on these podcasts all the time by mistake. Nobody's perfect. I will agree, though. I think JR does need, like, that segment he did with Darby Allin and Ethan Page. That was like perfect use of JR, and maybe have him come out and be the big match commentator for Nostalgia Feels is great, because I think there is outside of the slip ups, which happen to everybody. They do them on the WWE side all the time too. I hear them all the time, and we just don't bring attention to it because it's not AEW.
And I think the issue too is with commentary, and this could bring up we could actually spend a whole hour just talking probably about commentary. I think one of the side effects, especially when you have an aging commentator like JR, he was used to for a long time doing the two-man commentary booth, which I think is a far more efficient and effective way to do commentary. But now we're doing like these 3- and 4-man booths where there's just so many cooks in the kitchen. And then you have people talking over each other and people taking like stupid little ridiculous shots of each other. And I'm not talking like Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Heenan kind of really good shots. We're just talking like it comes off as petty between, especially like Renee Young and Corey Graves and that stuff was awful. But, I think that AEW would be a company that would really benefit with going with a 2-man booth. You get JR and you get maybe like Don Callis, or you get somebody like that. I've never really been a fan of Excalibur because I think he tries to put himself over too much as a wrestler when he's not a wrestler anymore. I think that you go with JR and you go with somebody else who's really, really experienced in that game. I would personally think if I was calling the shots, I would take Excalibur out of there. That's just my take. And he's had some issues on with some previous stuff with some racial comments and stuff like that. I think that I'm surprised that they actually put him back in there. But I digress on that. I think that, like I said, just get off JR's back. He made a mistake. Just chill, people. Just chill.
Who's the guy that WWE just let go that everyone was shocked about, like just a couple months back?
Adnan Virk or something like that?
No. Tom Phillips.
Yeah.
Tom Phillips would be absolute gold in AEW. And I'm not really someone to say they need more WWE guys, but to me, an announcer is completely different. I don't even like Justin Roberts that much, to be honest. I think he's too over the top.
The best way to do
Tom Phillips is an amazing storyteller.
Is you need a guy to have
Mauro Ranallo
to call the action in the ring, right? And then you have the color commentator. Usually, it's most effective when you have the guy calling the action in the ring to be the straight guy or to be the baby face commentator, and then usually you have a heel color guy taking jabs and doing the Bobby Heenan stick, right? I think that's when pro wrestling commentary is at its best, when you have that 2-man or 2-person dynamic. I think it's best. And people in the chat saying letting go of Tom Phillips was probably a mistake. I would agree. Morrow was really good too, but sometimes maybe a little too much, kind of over the top. But he's like Vanessa is saying here, he does a lot of Baku stuff, and he's very, very good at it.
Yeah, like I don't know, like to me, like the sound. I've always taken this, and maybe it's a dated way, but I mean, we still listen to the radio in the car. We still listen to things. We still listen to audio, whether it's podcasts, whether it's, I mean, some people still listen to like things on tape or in the car, like those kind of things, like books on tape or whatever. But you know what? I can't seem to get Dr. Seuss on audio, but if I can, I would love to listen to Green Eggs and Ham on a road trip. I think that would just pop everyone. Right. But I'm not gonna go into a hole if I don't have a shovel. So like, I'll just make a tunnel out. But no. But with that said, like an announcer should always, be able to describe what he sees through words to whoever's hearing it. And I've always taken the announcer paints you the picture, your commentator colors it in and fills it in for you. I've always taken that approach to even when I've personally done any commentary or announcing. And I think a lot of people forget that. And you say Excalibur tries to, put himself over too much. And and I still wonder if he still thinks that his in-ring career could still continue. I don't know. That always looks to be like a sign of just like, I haven't fully transformed to this other role yet, even though he is. Like, it just seems a little weird.
Vanessa making a very valid point there, by the way. People rip on JR for saying WWE Dynamite, but yet they allow grammar mistakes in their major newspapers. Touche. That was a very valid point.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't know the name of your show and the name of the company.
Sure.
I will say that. There are times where JR says things, and you know what? He deserves the backlash because he should know better.
It's an awesome.
You can't always go back to the whole, well, he's old. He's could be senile. But he's Jim Ross. He's okay to make a mistake sometimes, but not all the time. I mean, if you're going to be consistent with these things, then maybe it is time for you just to move on and step aside and let somebody else do it.
It gets happened maybe literally twice.
No, I'm just saying, like, just from like standpoint, but like, but that's also my point too. Like, it's not like he's doing it all the time. People need to ease off.
See,
like,
if you're clever though, when you have a situation like that, and I know it can be a little risque nowadays, but when you have something like that, you can flip it into a shtick if you want to, right? Like with the Mike Adamle, most famously, right? They realized that they had kind of a fool on their hands, so they turned it into a storyline, and they actually had some fun with it. So. We had the famous Jeff Harvey moment. So
I'm just happy to be here on the Turnbuckle Rewind episode tonight.
Wait a second. What?
No. Sunday brunch. My bad.
Yes. Sunday brunch. Yes. Although we are due to have you, we will have you on Rewind at some point. Though we'll have to get you to pick a match, and we'll have to have you on over there. Though.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well,
like people mess up all the time. People say the wrong thing live.
We even do on this show. Like at the beginning of the show, I completely forgot to mention our sponsor, RK Athletics. So I wanted to make sure we give them a shout out to make sure that
that was a smooth transition.
I tried. I beat myself to Spencer. Otherwise, I'm going to go back in the office because I think I've been in there probably more than anybody else on this channel. So want to smooth things over and make sure you check out our friends over at RK Athletics. They are the wonderful sponsor of us here at Love Wrestling. And the next thing I want to get to here is I got to get this all queued up. So if you guys want to vamp for a few seconds, I got to pull up the information I need for the next segment here.
Okay. Well, I also just want to make sure everybody takes this time to check out lovewrestling.ca, where you can check out all the important shows that Love Wrestling presents to you, whether it is Between Two Beards, whether it is Turnbuckle Rewind, and all that fun jazz, whether it's anything Josh Robinson, who's a complete stud muffin, and anything he does. If it's the POS show, even if it's a Power Talk, I believe it's Power Talk, right? Power I don't know. I don't watch much wrestling, so plus I'm trying to like look at through all the stuff of what we have, and I'm failing, and I'm trying to ramble. But also go to the shop, make sure you buy the mug that Pluggo is sporting out, buy the stickers, buy the new fanny packs that we have, because that's a trend in pro wrestling, and also buy the shirts.
Yep. All right, coming up this week over at Love Wrestling, we have Josh Robinson with the Legacy of Trish Stratus, which actually came out a little bit early. I know he was a little upset about that, but you just got to enjoy the awesomeness a little bit sooner, which I was totally cool with. On Tuesday, we have The Mind Behind with Holden Albright of Power Out. On Wednesday, we have Turnbuckle Rewind with yours truly. On Thursday, we have the War Report. I almost said that with a weird accent there. Sorry about that. And the absolutely fabulous Between Two Beards. Friday, we have Spencer Love interviews with Veda Scott, who you saw most recently on the Quizplex show, which if I'm not mistaken, she won that.
You set a record. Too,
yes, absolutely. And on Saturday, we have the Blowing Off stream. And then Sunday, we have the Sunday brunch again. And then also we will have a Cameron Stevens special episode, I guess, of Inspired coming to you guys as well. So
Mighty Joe, I would like to add one thing.
Yes.
This Sunday, we do not have a Sunday brunch because it is Money in the Bank Day, which means it is a POS show. So I just wanted to correct you on that one. Ironically enough, as we're talking about slips, but I mean, it's a very packed week here at Love Wrestling.
As it usually is. Okay. All right, guys, before we kind of go here, let's double check our chat here. Vanessa saying Albright is phenomenal. I would definitely agree 100%. All right, let's go around. Parrish, last chance to get some plugs in, and what else are you up to these days? I hear that you're doing something.
Yeah, if you look up to this corner, you see the Sunday brunch logo. Yeah. But now if you go back and you zoom in, because I don't know how to upload a bigger photo other than the background, and I did not want to do that, you'll see the match tonight that I am in. So if you are living in the St. Albert or around the area, whether it's Edmonton, just surrounding city, and you want to check out some independent wrestling, then you can find me, your boy, Chris Parrish, taking on Jude Dawkins, Bobby Sharp, for the HIW, which is High Impact Wrestling Grand Championship over at the Canadian Wrestling Elite, the CWE, hosted by all the fine guys in Winnipeg, because, well, Winnipeg, killing it in pro wrestling right now.
Absolutely.
But yeah, other than that, you can just find me on the socials. Chris Parrish on the Twitter, Chris.Parrish on the Instagram, at the Chris Parrish on Twitch. And yeah, that is me.
What about you, Pluggo? What have you got going on? I hear that you are you do a show on Love Wrestling, I think.
Sometimes, yeah. When the lights are on and the boss hasn't got me in the office on Thursday nights at 8:30, me and JPJ host Between Two Beards. You know, we just talk about whatever and see what this week. I'm on vacation, which is awesome. So hopefully I'll get to jump on some more of these shows this week with you fine folks. But other than that, you can catch me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I just switched over to the Twitter to Pluggo, so it's Pluggo now. And then we got the Between Two Beards Twitter, so if everybody go follow that, B2 Beards, at B2 Beards. Sorry, I'm still learning. I'm JRing myself now.
Okay, I'm probably gonna do the same here when I do my stuff.
But that's all right, because like I said, I tweet everything out. I make sure that you guys know where to, and that's all I got going on this week.
Yeah. And for those wondering, Parrish didn't just fart. He just shifted his weight in his chair, which unfortunately produces a bit of a farting sound, just so everybody is aware.
Or did I? I ate before this show. We don't know.
That's weird. You for like again with the fart sound.
Oh yeah, no, that's totally my chair. I just wanted
because you're actually usually eating on the show, and you didn't for the first time in a while.
Well, it's because I'm normally wearing these things, but they're out of batteries and they have better noise cancellation than Apple earbuds because they're pathetic. So that's why you're listening to potentially Parrish Passing Wind.
Yes. For myself, coming up tomorrow, we have a Turnbuckle Talk, and we'll be touching a whole bunch of stuff there. I actually haven't even come up with the run for the episode. We're doing it tomorrow, so I got to get on that once we're done this. Coming up this week for Turnbuckle Rewind, we're going to Survivor Series 2002 for a Josh Robinson pick for this match here. Trish versus Victoria in a hardcore match. That's going to be a lot of fun to break down. Looking forward to that one. And then, of course, for us here at Love Wrestling, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think we're even on Tumblr and some of the other ones. We even have a TikTok going now, for crying out loud. You can check us out over there as well. And, of course, thanks to our subscribers on YouTube and Twitch as well. So I want to make sure I get that on there. And for me on the socials, for whatever reason, it's not showing up for us here this week, but at TB Talk Pod is where you can find me on the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I guess
you have the ticker on.
Even without the ticker on, it doesn't show up, but that is what it is. But I have no idea why that's happening, so we'll just roll with
it. Hell yeah. That's what we do.
All right, guys. That about wraps up here for this week, and we'll see you guys on the next one.